Welcome to the Local 586 Retirees Minute, where we sit down with the brothers and sisters who made our local what it is today. Today I'm speaking with brother Bert Olmstead. How are you today, sir?
I'm very fine.
How and when did you start in the electrical trade?
I started in 1969 in August of 69, right after a strike we had. And I had been working at Dominion Magnesium Mine, and I was 18. I'd been there for a year, and I'd done some other things before that, and I ended up starting an apprenticeship. Met Slim Gouja from the Department of Labor and interviewed with a couple of contractors, and got hired at Bolton Electric and started working for Bolton's, and I worked for them for 7.5, almost 8 years, I guess. I got my license with them and worked on a service truck and small jobs. That's what they specialized in, and they did a lot of fire alarm at the time and a lot of embassy work, a lot of rewires. And they did some new construction too, so it was a pretty good mix, but very little slab, more, and lots of service as well. Maybe do 2 or 3 calls a day, or 2 places in a day, or 5 places in a day, and then you might be a week at one place, or 3 months. So it was pretty varied. Good shop to learn your trade.
And were they part of the IBEW then?
Yes, and I became right away what used to be a B member.
Okay.
And I think it was like $5 a month you paid as a B member. We don't have B members anymore. But the apprentices used to pay, I think it was about $5. Maybe after you're in your second year, you started paying $5. And then when you were a journeyman, when you got your license, I think you started paying your full dues and you paid your balance of initiation, I believe. I sort of thought that it's hard to know, really, to remember that far back. I thought I might have been paying full dues before that, but not a full member. And I think the dues at that time might have been $18.50, around then. So, but I had a good shop. It was a good varied experience, and I worked with lots of good guys.
Do you remember your first job with the IBEW?
Yeah, first job I did was putting some outlets in an old house somewhere in Ottawa. I didn't know my way around Ottawa, but I was with a fellow called Marcel Laverne.
And was he your first journey person?
He was my first journeyman. I worked with him a couple of days, and then I worked a lot of days with Basil Hawley. He's still alive today, I believe. And Cliff Bullis, he's no longer in this area. He's in Yellowknife. I worked with Doug Jeffries, who was his own contractor. I worked with Barry Hancock, who had Hancock Electric, became his own contractor. I worked with Ronnie Kopp, who's still alive today, and golfing. So I worked with that crew. Don McKinstry, E-Boy, like that era. I'm trying to think. I worked with Don McGilvery, that went on to teach at Algonquin College, and I worked with Sonny Patry, that was a teacher at Algonquin College too.
What part of the electrical trade appealed to you most? Like, were you kind of a pipe guy, or distribution, or fire alarm, or did you like it all?
Well, I did a lot of fire alarm. I was a steward a lot of the times, so I did a lot of fire alarm. I did lots of distribution. I'd do anything, I didn't care. I never really liked slabs too much, but I never did a whole lot of them in my life. But I did lots of fire alarm rewires, with Bolton's. They did a lot of embassy work and school work. So I worked on a lot of schools around Ottawa, put in the first fire alarm systems, and I did the Chateau Laurier fire alarm with Bolton's in pyrotechnics, 7-conductor pyro, as an apprentice, And then when I was a journeyman, I started traveling then too. Bolton's got a little bigger, and as they got larger, I started started hiring people instead of a little small family shop that it was. They got a little bigger, and I started meeting guys from the union hall, and I started hearing stories and about this job and that job, and how much money you could make here, and all the adventures you could have, and so I started leaning, thinking there was more of the world to see than the service truck off of Bank Street, you know. So that's basically when I started, and that's when I started traveling after that. You know, after I left Bolton's, I went to Sarnia and Manitoba and those kinds of things, you know. Then I came back and I worked service truck again for a good outfit. Yeah, you know what? I worked for lots of different contractors, and you know, at the time they're all a pain in the ass, and looking back, it wasn't so bad. You know, I had a good time everywhere I went. You know, pretty much, even when it was a bad time, it was a good time for me.
What have you learned from being in a union, and what do you like most about Local 586?
You know, the guys that I've worked with, the things that we've done, we've accomplished a lot of things. I've been on strike 4 or 5 times. I've stood together with different guys, and when you stand on a picket line or an information picket, it can be a nerve-wracking situation and can be aggressive. When you go through it with a fella, you and that fella have something that, even if you don't even particularly like the guy, you got something special that you have to experience to understand. You're tied together, you know. You accomplish something. Maybe it was in the face of adversity, and you did it together. And so you'll win or lose or draw. You did it standing with another man, you know. And there's no better feeling. You know, I remember we were in Perth keeping the guys off the job in Omnia, and we shut things down, and it was a hopeless cause in the beginning, and we won out in the end, and that's a feeling that you don't get going into work in an office or a factory, you know. The uncertainties of the business make you economically wise. It should make you economically wise. You need to be cognizant of the fact that you might be out of work on Friday, so you don't want to put your eggs all in one basket or commit your money that you don't have. You need to be a little wiser managing your finances, and I think it should keep you in. That's a good thing to know throughout your whole life, right? Looking after your finances and not putting yourself in a position that you're going to die if you leave a job, or if you have to put up with. I always liked having the kiss my ass a little bit of money in the banks. If it becomes intolerable, you can always leave, right? And you need a few bucks behind you to be able to do that. So I kind of learned that early too. I was fortunate when I started with Bolton Electric, because the kid came out of the mines. I didn't know anything, and they had a bookkeeper there that said, whatever money you make, you have to live on. So if I put $5 away every week for you in a savings account, you're not going to miss it because you never had it. And so I started doing that. And he said, when you turn the second year, he said, let me put $10 away for you, and we'll put it in a savings account, or you could have it at Christmas, or do whatever you want. But he said, by the time you're 5th year apprentice, you're saving $25 a week, and it starts to matter. But he said, we got journeymen here that put in $50, $75 a week, and you don't know it because you live on what you're getting, right? And he said, you have a little money for a rainy day, and that's about the best thing a guy in the trade can learn, is to have a little bit of money set aside for a rainy day, because they come, and they come. It's hard. Like when they tell you there's no work for 2 years, and they're not kidding. They and say, find something else to do to take you through a couple of years. Well, that's serious talk. I remember going back in after 2 years into the hall to see Lou, to see where I was on the books. I said, it must be getting close. And he looked at me, and he looked at the books, and he said, Bert, I don't even have you on the list. I go, holy Jesus, I've been 2 years waiting for a call. You tell me I'm not on the list. How can that be? How can that be? But anyway, I went in. I got a call within a week. I had a call, and Christ, I laughed. Off for 2 years, and the first call I got back was for Glebe Electric on a high-rise apartment building. I said, "Oh Jesus, thanks a lot." I was like, "I love that." But anyway, that's business, right?
What would you like to say to a new apprentice starting out in the electrical trade at Local 586?
I would say take every course that they can give you. Take every course that you possibly can. It's all free. And I would say to make yourself known around the union hall. I would say to get involved, even just by being there. I would say become one of the known people at the hall. I'd say learn the ins and outs of the business and how things work. And I'd say work your ass off for whatever contractor you go out for. Give that guy the best show he's ever had, And I was told that when I was an apprentice, because I was lipping off. I must have been in the union when I was in the third year. I must have joined when I was about third year. Because I said something to Don McKinstry, was a journeyman, and he was saying something to me, and I said something to him about, "You can kiss my ass, I'm in the union now," or I'm sure. So I must have been about a third year apprentice, and he came on to me, and he said, I never forgot, the guy said, he said, "You little shit," he said, "You've done nothing to deserve this." He said, "You don't understand anything about what the union is supposed to be." He said, "Union man is supposed to be the best man that contractor ever hired, supposing it's 1 day, 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years, so that when he goes to hire another guy, he wouldn't hire anybody else but a union man, And he said, that's what you're supposed to do. He said, you're supposed to give any guy, whether you like him or not, however long it is, it doesn't matter, give him the absolute best you can, and he won't hire anybody but union." And I never forgot McKinstry, he wasn't no saint of a guy, but he gave a good day's work, right? And if you give a good day, then you don't owe anybody. You don't owe them a thing. You give him 8 for 8, and you don't have to split his fucking wood on the weekend, or cut his grass. I used to see these assholes at Glebe, they saying, "Oh, well, you want to get together on the weekend." Well, what do you mean? Well, we're all going to go to the foreman's cottage and split firewood, And I said, "Oh, yeah, well, so then next week we come and split my firewood? Is that how that works?" "Well, no, we just go up to him." I go, "Well, fuck him, I got my own firewood to split." But, they kind of felt they had to do that, Well, I never felt I had to do that. I worked hard enough that like when you give them a good day, then you're honest, right? You're honest. You're honest. You don't owe them anything else, Like, that's sort of what I always thought.
I'd like to thank Bert Olmstead for speaking with us today. If you or someone you know is a retired member and would like to share their experiences with us on Retirees Minute, please contact the office. We'd love to share your story. Thanks for listening.